Today we test out the latest Zesty Nimble V3, a remote flex drive extruder, and we try to answer the question, is a hybrid between direct drive and bowden better than both, or just a compromise? You can consider this video a follow-up on a previous video of mine due to community requests. Not too long ago, I made a video comparing the pros and cons of direct drive and bowden tube extruders, and briefly discussed a third hybrid option. When it comes to these, there are two main options, and I've already tested one, and now I'm going to test out the other, the Zesty Nimble V3, or simply the Nimble Flex. We're going to start by explaining how this product differs from others, and then we're going to jump straight in. We need to start by understanding some components from our 3D printer. First up is our extruder drive. Rotated by the extruder stepper motor, we have a hobbed gear or gears, and their job is to grip the filament and push it towards the hot end. Typically, due to the size of the stepper motor, this is a heavy component. Further down the line is the hot end. In essence, this is where the filament is heated up, melted, and then extruded out as our 3D printed part. There's a little bit more to it than this, but overall it's pretty simple. Cold filament goes in, extruded plastic comes out. So how are these arranged on the machine? Well, here are two different configurations. Direct drive is when the output of the extruder drive is directly connected to the hot end, or at least with very little distance in between. Combination direct drive extruder and hot ends are becoming more and more popular because they're becoming so much more compact. In a way, this is the most simple configuration you can have for a 3D printer. Filament goes in, molten plastic comes out. The short filament path adds a lot of control and makes styling in slicer settings much easier, but the added weight of carrying around the extruder can negatively impact print quality. The opposite approach is the bowden tube setup, where we have a piece of PTFE tube that the filament is constrained and can travel through. The bowden tube acts as the link between the extruder drive output and the input of the hot end, putting distance between the two. And configuring the printer in this way allows us to move the heavy extruder stepper motor away from the moving parts. It's still a simple system. Filament goes in, molten plastic comes out, just the pathway is a lot longer. The print head no longer contains the heavy stepper motor, so this added lightness can improve print quality, but we do lose some control of the filament over the long path, and therefore tuning the printer can be more difficult. So what about this third hybrid option that we mentioned earlier? Flex drive extruders like the Zesty Nimble are neither direct drive or bowden tube. The extruder drive containing the hobbed gear is very lightweight and compact, and like direct drive is mounted directly above the hot end. However, the extruder stepper motor is mounted remotely on the machine and is connected to the hobbed gear with a flexible drive cable, which on paper should mean that we have the control of a direct drive system from the shorter filament path, but due to the stepper motor being mounted remotely, we have the lightweight of a bowden tube configuration. This means that in theory, we should have the advantages of direct drive without any of the downsides. The product we're testing today is the Nimble V3, also known as the Flex. The Flex name for version 3 comes from the fact that you have quite a lot of control over the angle that you mount the Flex cable. The price will change depending on the cable length, but ranges from $132 US up to $152. I purchased this kit myself and actually got two different length cables because I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use. Inside the smaller box we have the rest of the parts, and included is an extruder stepper bracket to go on your printer frame, a bag full of hardware including bearings, nuts and bolts, lubricant and the gears, and finally a bag full of the body parts for the Nimble Flex. I can't find the details on the website, but I believe these parts are SLS sintered nylon. That means they're really lightweight, quite tough and have a little bit of flex. Onto assembly, and we have some quite nice documentation on a website. This includes having all of the parts labeled, and then step-by-step illustrated instructions on the possible mounting positions, and then the component assembly. Overall, the assembly process is quite straightforward, and the only difficult steps are due to tight tolerances. The tightest being the insertion of the worm gear and bearings inside the worm housing. My successful method being using a large Allen key to drive it home straight. I particularly liked these little caps that push in and then twist to lock them in place, and there's several of these used throughout the design rather than a traditional nut and bolt. Probably the most delicate piece is the breech. It holds the idler bearing and is responsible for the clamping force against the hobbed gear. Before all of these components go together, we put on a small amount of assembly lube and then we press fit the components together, selecting which angle we want to use by matching up the mating pattern. I went with the default vertical orientation and pressed on the final piece to match. If you did change your mind, it should be quite simple to alter this angle later on. The breech is able to be hinged from either the top or the bottom, and once again I followed the default configuration of hinging it from the bottom. After the lower pegs are in place, we squeeze the ears and push it in until it clicks, which should lock it in place until the ears are squeezed again. That's our assembly process complete, and I was pleased to verify the lightweight as listed on the website. So far so good, but at this point I couldn't proceed without some custom design work. One of the nice things about the Nimble are the pre-designed mounts to suit various printers. There's a range available on Thingiverse, as well as some parts on Thangs, but in my case my printer wasn't catered for yet. So I started disassembling my printer by removing the old PTFE fitting. I then unbolted and unplugged all of the cooling fans, which freed up this metal shroud that I figured would have to be the basis for my custom mount. Fortunately on this machine, the hot end and heatsink are secured separately to the effector, so this metal cage is what I'll need to remix, including all of the mounting holes for the fans and the exterior dimensions. I started with a quick mock-up of the footprint just to make sure everything was accurate, and once this was confirmed, I went back to CAD and fleshed out the rest of the body. I then imported the step file for one of the existing mounts on Thingiverse and used it to project the 3 mounting holes that the Nimble would be bolted to. I then added geometry to suit. Here's the old and the new cage side by side, the new one printed in black PLA because this section won't get hot. It was necessary to print this part with support from the build plate only, but fortunately that wasn't too bad to remove. The only part that didn't work were these bars where the air exits being too skinny and breaking as I removed the support. For my printed version, I just elected to snip them off, but I have simplified the design that's posted on Thingiverse. I designed this part to take 5 M3 threaded inserts, 2 on the underside and 3 on the top. The exact dimensions are listed on Thingiverse. With these inserts in place, I was able to bolt on the Zesty Nimble, and I'm pleased to say that everything lined up. And with this sub-assembly complete, I could now make an accurate comparison between the weight of the old components and the weight of the new components. What was unexpected and welcome was that the new assembly was actually a few grams lighter than the old. Time to bolt it to the machine. This is quite straightforward and simply a reversal of when we disassembled. We bolt on the 3 cooling fans, guide the wires back to their original position, and make sure the outlets of the blower fans are facing downwards. We still need a short length of PTFE tube to go inside the top of the heatsink and to go into the red fitting on the bottom of the Zesty Nimble. I started with one that was purposely too long, repeatedly dummy fitting and shaving off a millimeter or so at a time until the length of the tube was spot on. Bolted into place from underneath, tidy back up the wiring, plug everything in, and one end is complete. Now to disassemble the old extruder and relocate the stepper motor. This printer came with a Bondtech BMG clone, and I removed all of its components to isolate the stepper. I then dummy fitted the coupler for the flex drive, as well as the supplied bracket, so I could see where I wanted to sit it on the machine. I figured a good spot was bolting it to the rear extrusion of the frame down the bottom. This moved it out of the way, but still gave ample access for the cable. I'd recommend moving the print head around and ensuring there are no snags before you continue. With the path verified, we can now insert one end of the cable drive into the Zesty Nimble, and this was another extremely tight fit. After some sustained pressure and wiggling, it finally slotted into place, and I could then lock the position by installing and rotating the cap. The extruder stepper bracket was then mounted permanently to the frame, and then I fed through the other end of the cable drive and inserted the rigid coupler, making sure to try and center the cable as I tightened the 4 grub screws. We then introduced the stepper motor, lining up the flat of the output shaft with the grub screws. We bolt it to the mounting frame and then tighten the final grub screws. With everything in place, I again recommend gently moving around the print head through its full range of motion to ensure that nothing snags with the cable drive or other wiring. Obviously the wiring for the extruder stepper is too short, and we've got this ugly bracket that we no longer need, so I designed and printed a smaller one. It holds just the filament runout sensor and is a lot tidier. And for the extruder stepper, I made up an extension cable, which connects to the original extruder cable, is held inside the extrusion that forms the frame of the machine, and feeds down to the new position of the stepper. That's the physical install complete, which means we can move on to the software configuration. So we move on to tuning the firmware, and I do have a 32-bit board, and they recommend 2700 steps per millimeter. I am running Clipper, so I'm going to use the formula on their website to work out my rotation distance. I have 200 full steps per rotation, times 16 for microstepping, divided by 2,700 steps per millimeter. I now have a value that I can copy and paste into my config, rounding up for the last decimal place. I then got the hot end up to temp and verified that the hobbed gear was rotating in the correct direction. I then followed the E-steps calibration procedure on my website, which works exactly the same for Clipper in modifying the rotation distance value, which I then updated in my printer configuration. The documentation states as there's so much torque from the gearing, we can run a really low current of 500 milliamps. So I'm going to drop mine down from the previous 950 to the suggested 500. Now we have acceleration and jerk, and for Clipper, if we don't have it already, we need to copy the command max extrude only excel, and we can paste this into the extruder section of our config. More on this value later. Also in the docs are some slicer recommendations, such as a retraction speed of 30mm per second for PLA. I adopted this and ran a retraction tower from my calibration website and settled on a retraction length of 0.5 mm. Another thing that I had to tweak was input shaping, because the mass had changed very slightly for the print head. I plugged back in the accelerometer and entered the command shaper calibrate to let Clipper do its thing and automatically work out the resonant frequencies. And when it was done, I entered save config to store the new settings. Time for tuning, and I did have some mixed results at the start, so hopefully I can pass on a few specific tips and tricks that got everything working for me. The first test print I loaded up was a humble calibration cube, and I was shocked by the noise the printer was making. It also seemed to be under extruding, so halfway through, I used the web interface to lower the feed rate from the sliced 100mm per second to 50% of this. And you can see from the point I slowed things down, the print quality was markedly improved, although still needed work. For the extruder stepper, I was only running spread cycle, so I upped the threshold to make it run on the quieter stealth chop. Probably the most significant problem was running the larger pressure advance value from the Bowden tube. So for now, I turned it off by setting it to 0. I ran the exact same G-code again without the speed being lowered, and things seemed much better. Most importantly, the quality of the calibration cube was much better. After this, I reran the Clipper procedure for tuning pressure advance, selecting a height that had fairly crisp corners, but without any breakdown in extrusion quality. Next up, a speed tower test, and I've recently added a page and G-code generator for this to my website. I set this one up to print at 20mm per second for the lowest segment, up to 100mm per second for the upper segment. And the first time I printed it, it was a complete disaster. We can see that from the second band, the extrusion completely breaks down, but I did manage to fix this, and fortunately the fix was quite simple. The section I added in the extruder to limit acceleration had to be dropped all the way from 120 to 35. I also lowered my max accel to decel from 5,000 to 2,000. With these more conservative acceleration values, I started a benchy with a base feed rate of 100mm per second, and this completed in approximately an hour. I've still got a bit of tuning to do for retraction to minimize the blobs and some faint stringing, but overall it printed quite well. I then decided to do some additional PLA test prints with a project I've been working on. This is a 4.3-inch Nexteon screen communicating through a serial converter in a custom case that I've designed to go perfectly onto my sim rig. For me, this is what 3D printing's all about, designing and making custom parts to make my other hobbies even better. Overall, I like it. It seems really well designed and well made. Convenience is important to me, and I'm able to have the benefits of direct drive with a marginally lighter effector. There are still some downsides, however. The gearing on the Nimble is 30:1, whereas the BMG clone that came off the machine originally has a more common gear ratio of 3:1. This means the extruder stepper now has to spin 10 times faster than it used to with the old system, and that's 30 times faster than a non-geared extruder like you'll find on an Ender 3. This is harder on the stepper motor, and that's why I had to lower the acceleration values. It could be nothing, but I also have some concerns over the breech. As I've mentioned, tolerances are very tight on this product, and this initially caused me trouble. You're meant to open the breech, and then you're freely able to push the filament down to the hot end below. The trouble came when I then tried to close the breech. The tolerances were just too tight, and there was no way that it was snapping back into position. I wrestled with it for a while, being very worried that I might snap something, and at one point I tried to print with it as is, which led to dramatic under extrusion. I worked out that at the start I had to close it with no filament present, and then manually apply pressure from above to force the filament in while issuing a move command from the firmware. I was then able to print rigid filaments without any loss of grip. After a few print jobs, I was able to use the breech as intended by inserting filament into the hot end, rotating the breech upwards and waiting for it to click into place. My biggest disappointment was when I tried to print flexible TPU. The website claims that you simply close the breech, adjust your temperature, and you'll be off printing perfectly. I set up a speed power test to match what I'd done in a previous video, where the feed rate varied from 10 mm per second up to 50 mm per second. Loading this 85A Shore hardness TPU wasn't too bad. I was able to gently push it in by hand and then close the breech. But when I started printing, I had severe under extrusion, even at the very slow 10 mm per second. With this design, there's no way to add any tension to the breech to get a better grip on the filament. And on this soft filament, the grip was so weak I could pull it out while it was printing. Mine's fine so far, but I did notice on the Zesty Discord that some folks suffered from broken breeches, although it appears these were replaced by customer support without any argument. If mine does eventually break, or if I want to print flexibles, there is a community design from Dr. Do for an adjustable breech for the Nimble. Remote flex drive extruders such as the Nimble tick a lot of boxes, but I still think there's some compromises. That's my opinion, but I'd still like to know yours, so why don't you head down to the comment section now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy 3D printing. G'day, it's Michael again. If you liked the video, then please click like. If you want to see more content like this in future, click subscribe, and make sure you click on the bell to receive every notification. If you really want to support the channel and see exclusive content, become a patron. Visit my Patreon page. See you next time.